Do you dare to seek a treasure that has been hidden under the shadow of a terrifying curse for generations? Rumors say that anyone who chooses this path will face more than just riches, darkness, danger, and a secret from which no one has ever returned alive. Are you ready to embark on this mysterious journey? Samantha, Chris, Jim, Alex, and Lily are five adventurous university students majoring in history and archaeology who dedicate their lives to uncovering the unknown. Each of them has a unique skill. Chris, the group leader, loves adventures and working with ancient maps. Samantha, a bright girl passionate about ancient cultures, is fluent in multiple languages. Jim, a curious and savvy young man, has a special talent for deciphering inscriptions. Alex, a meticulous historian, always relies on logic. Lily, the group's photographer, captures every moment. After hearing the legend about the mysterious forest in Eastern Europe, they decide to explore this unknown place. The forest, referred to by locals as the Cursed Forest, is rumored in legends to be the location of an ancient treasure. Stories about people disappearing and spirits haunting the forest add to its mystique. Chris discovers an old, worn map in an antique market. The seller tells him the map was found on the body of a man who never returned alive from the forest. The map reveals the route to ruins where locals believe the ancient treasure is buried. Strange and incomprehensible symbols are etched onto the map. Chris excitedly shows the map to the group, although Lily and Samantha are hesitant about the potential dangers. Jim and Alex embrace the idea of exploring the cursed forest. In the end, the thrill of adventure outweighs their fears, and everyone agrees to embark on the journey. Before entering the forest, the group stops by a small village near its edge to gather supplies and collect some information. The village, with its wooden houses and dirt roads, seem to be disconnected from the modern world. In a local shop, an elderly man with a weary and stern face stared at them intently when he learned about their plans to enter the forest. He said, "Your map won't lead you to treasure, it will lead you to death." But the group dismissed his warning. As they were leaving the shop, an old woman dressed in traditional attire, sitting on the ground, spoke in a raspy voice. "The forest holds more than just treasure. It's home to spirits, shadows, and things that must never be vacant. Once you step inside, there's no turning back." The group hesitated briefly after hearing these warnings, but Chris, with a confident smile, said, "It's just a legend. We're here to uncover the truth." After purchasing their supplies, the group set off toward the forest. As their car approached the forest, the road became narrower, and the fog grew thicker. The wind rustling through the tree branches created an eerie whispering sound. The forest was much larger and darker than they had imagined. They parked their car at a clearing and with heavy backpacks ventured into the forest. Chris, holding the map, led the group. A mix of excitement and fear churned in the hearts of each member. Moments after stepping into the forest, a sense of heaviness filled the air. Lily, usually carefree, remarked, "I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling about this place." Samantha, looking thoughtful, responded, It's just nature. Big forests always feel a little strange, but deep down, they all knew this was just the beginning. If you dare to listen to this story until the end, give it a like and stay with us. The group entered the forest, and at first everything seemed peaceful and ordinary. Tall trees, a gentle breeze, and the chirping of birds created a refreshing atmosphere. Jim, full of excitement, said, "I can't believe we're actually exploring this place. It feels like something out of a legend." Chris smiled and replied, "We just need to follow the map. If it's accurate, we'll reach the ruins by sunset." But as they ventured deeper into the forest, unsettling signs began to appear. The birds silenced. Suddenly the chirping of birds stopped entirely. Samantha froze in place, puzzled. "Why is it so quiet? It's like everything just stopped," she said. Little laughed nervously, saying, "Maybe the birds are scared of us." But her smile quickly faded. The heavy, chilling wind. A strange wind blew through the trees. It wasn't just cold. It carried a sense of weight and unease. Samantha rubbed her arms and murmured, "The air feels so strange. Don't you think it's unusual?" Alex, always the rational one, replied, "It's just natural airflow in the forest. Don't overthink it." They smell of burnt flesh. The deeper they went, the stronger the pungent, unpleasant smell of burnt flesh became. Jim, trying to lighten the mood, joked maybe someone's having a barbecue out here. But Samantha, more uneasy than the others, stayed silent. Her eyes were fixed on the shifting shadows moving between the trees. Samantha was the first to notice that something or someone was moving among the trees. She paused several times, carefully scanning her surroundings. At one point, a tall, dark shadow glided swiftly between the trees. With growing unease, she said to the others, "Did you see that? Over there, something moved." Chris laughed and replied, "Sam, you're imagining things. It's just the shadows of the trees." But Samantha was certain there was something unusual in the forest. As the sun set, the forest transformed into a dark and menacing place. The group decided to set up camp in an open clearing. Chris started a small fire, and Lily began taking pictures of the surroundings. Yet, even the flickering flames couldn't dispel the fear creeping into their hearts. As night fell, faint but incomprehensible whispers began to echo from the forest. Samantha, her eyes wide with terror, asked, "Do you hear that? The voices. It sounds like someone's talking." Jim, trying to mask his fear, laughed nervously. "Maybe just the wind," he said. Chris, braver than the rest, grabbed his flashlight and walked toward the source of the sound. He called out loudly, "Whoever is out there, show yourself!" But there was no reply. All he saw were the trees standing silently in the darkness. When he returned to the group, he said, "There's nothing out there. It's just your imagination." Yet, the moment Chris turned back, Samantha saw it again, a tall shadow moving behind him among the trees. Her voice trembling, she said, "Chris, can't you?" But when everyone looked, there was nothing there. That night, no one could sleep well. The whispers continued, and the air grew colder with every passing hour. Samantha stayed awake, staring into the dying embers of the fire, as indistinct shadows flickered at the edges of the camp. The group had no idea that this was only the beginning of the nightmare waiting for them. As the sun reached its peak in the sky, the group arrived at the spot marked on the map. Before them stood the ruins of an ancient temple, half buried in the earth, as though it had been forgotten for centuries in silence. Tall, dark trees surrounded it, and even the sunlight couldn't penetrate the thick canopy to reach the place properly. The stone walls of the temple were decorated with intricate, strange carvings. Alex, who had a deep love for history, approached the walls and carefully examined the symbols. He traced his finger over one of the engravings and said, "These carvings belong to an ancient cult. It seems they used to sacrifice people and offer their bodies to creatures that guarded the treasure. Perhaps these creatures are the spirits the locals have spoken about." Samantha, who had been looking at the carvings quietly, whispered, "There's something wrong here. I feel like these carvings are alive. It's as if their eyes are following us." As the group continued to investigate, Jim, who was always the most curious member, noticed a stone that appeared different from the others. He carefully moved it aside, revealing a small hidden entrance. The opening was so narrow that only one person could enter at a time. Chris switched on his flashlight and said, "It looks like something important is hidden here. Maybe the treasure is inside." But Samantha, with a hint of worry, said, "Chris, maybe we should leave this place. It doesn't feel right. We don't know what's waiting behind this entrance." Chris glanced at her and replied, "If we back down now, everything we've done so far will have been for nothing. We'll just take a quick look." Jim eagerly stepped into the narrow entrance, and after a few moments discovered a small metal box buried in the dirt. He pulled it out and grinned, saying, "Look, this has to be what we've been searching for." But Samantha, her face filled with fear, said, "Jim, you shouldn't touch it. We don't know what it is. It might be cursed." Lily also warned Jim, but he ignored their concerns. With trembling hands, Jim opened the box. Inside was nothing but a small golden bead, intricately decorated with complex patterns. But as soon as the box was opened, a loud howling noise echoed from the depths of the forest. It wasn't the sound of an animal's howl. It sounded like something foreign, something alien and unknown. At the same time as the howl, the atmosphere around them shifted terrifyingly. The forest, which had been dark before, was now completely engulfed in a thick, unnatural shadow. The air turned cold, and a sharp wind blew out their campfire. Faint, unintelligible whispers could be heard from between the trees. But this time, they were clearer, sharper, and much more ominous than before. At the same time as the howl, the atmosphere around them shifted terrifyingly. The forest, which had been dark before, was now completely engulfed in a thick, unnatural shadow. The air turned cold, and a sharp wind blew out their campfire. Faint, unintelligible whispers could be heard from between the trees. But this time, they were clearer, sharper, and much more ominous than before. If you want to know what will happen to the 5 history students, please stay with us until the end of the video. Samantha spoke in a trembling voice, We shouldn't have done this. We've awakened something. Chris, trying to stay calm, said, "We need to get out of here right now. This place isn't safe." But as the group began to move toward the exit, tall, shifting shadows surrounded them. The shadows weren't human figures. They were creatures with long horns and glowing red eyes emerging from the darkness. The howling was now louder and more deafening, and it was getting closer. They could no longer leave the temple. Something was holding them in this place. Something that had been freed from the box and was now seeking new victims. That night the air felt heavier than ever. No one could sleep well, but their exhaustion forced them to rest. Samantha, still horrified by the box being opened, fell asleep earlier than the others. In her dream, she found herself in an endless, dark void. A woman dressed in tattered, ancient white clothing approached her. The woman's face was cold and expressionless, her eyes completely black, and the voice that came from her mouth was like the whisper of the wind through a graveyard. "You woke it up. Now you all belong to it. There is no escape." Samantha jolted awake with a loud scream, her entire body drenched in cold sweat. Alex, who was sleeping nearby, asked with concern, "What happened? Did you have a nightmare?" Gasping for breath, Samantha replied, "That woman, a woman in white. She said we woke her up." Lady, trying to calm her down, said, "It was just a nightmare. We're all under a lot of stress. Try to go back to sleep." But when Samantha looked around, she realized Jim was missing from the camp. The group quickly sprang into action, searching for Jim with their flashlights. The sound of the wind, now resembling terrifying whispers, filled the air. Lady said with a trembling voice, "Maybe he went to the bathroom." Chris replied seriously, "No, it's too dark and dangerous here for anyone to go off without telling us. We need to find him." After several hours of searching, they encountered a horrifying scene. Jim's body was mutilated. His limbs were scattered around, and his blood had stained the ground. But the strange thing was that there were no signs of animal attacks or intruders. Staring in shock at the corpse, Samantha murmured, "This isn't the work of an animal or a human." Chris pointed in bewilderment at the trees around them. On the trunks, written in Jim's blood, were the words, "One belongs to us. Rest soon." Lily began to cry, exclaiming, "We have to get out of here. This cursed forest is trying to kill us." But they didn't know that the forest had no way out. With Jim's death, fear and terror consumed the group. Chris, usually brave and determined, tried to calm everyone down, saying, "We need to pull ourselves together. We can't give up. Let's get out of here." Yet, every time they attempted to leave the forest, they found themselves back at the starting point. Alex, holding a map, said in confusion, "This is impossible. We followed the map exactly." Samantha in terror said, "The forest won't let us leave. We're trapped." A few hours later, Samantha's behavior began to change. She no longer stayed with the group, often standing in a corner, staring at the trees. Sometimes she would murmur to herself in a way that no one could understand. Alex looked at trees with concern and said, "I think Samantha isn't herself anymore. This forest is affecting her." At night, when the group decided to set up a small camp, Samantha vanished. Lily, panic-stricken, exclaimed, "Where did she go? Why didn't anyone notice?" Chris and Alex began searching with their flashlights, eventually finding her a distance away from the camp, but she was no longer Samantha. When they found her, her eyes were completely black. There was no white visible. Her skin was pale and she was murmuring words in an unknown language. The voice coming from her mouth sounded like multiple voices speaking simultaneously. Chris said softly, "Sam, is that you? This isn't you, right?" Samantha slowly turned her head and in a dry, deep voice said, "All of you belong to us. No one will survive." Suddenly, she lunged at Chris with inhuman strength. Her hands wrapped around his neck, slamming him to the ground. Lily screamed and Alex tried to pull her away from Chris, but Samantha had unimaginable power. Within seconds, Chris was dead. After Chris' death, Samantha's body suddenly fell to the ground. But that wasn't the end. Dark shadow detached from her body and hovered in the air. The shadow stared at the others for a moment before disappearing into the forest. Alex, terrified, said, "What? What was that?" Lily, unable to control her fear any longer, cried, "We can't get out of here alive. This forest wants to kill us." As they fled, Lily and Alex realized they were being pursued by creatures in the forest. These beings resembled humans, but had terrifying faces. Their teeth were sharp, and their eyes glowed in the darkness. It seemed these creatures were formed victims of the forest, now transformed into cannibals, attacking the group. Alex fell victim to the creatures, but Lily and Chris managed to return to the ruins of the temple. There, they realized that the only way to survive was to seal the curse of the box again. Chris decided to sacrifice himself so Lily could seal the box. He allowed the creatures to attack him while Lily recited the incantation written on the temple wall to close the box. As the box was sealed, everything returned to normal. The forest grew quiet again, and Lily, the sole survivor of the group, emerged from the woods with a heart full of fear and sorrow. If you enjoyed this scary story, share your thoughts with us in the comments. The next story will be even scarier. Months later, Lily was hospitalized in a psychiatric facility. Every night she had nightmares, claiming that the shadows were still chasing her. In the end, one of the doctors said she may have left the forest, but the forest will never leave her.